How's it going, hockey fans? Thanks for tuning in to the Posthuggerspodcast. Goldie, how goes it today?
It's going good, How about you?
Can't complain except for the weather in Phoenix. Hit 114 yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the signal for the rest of the summer. So for anybody that has not visited Phoenix in the summer months, don't do it. But it's like our winter. We just stay indoors and dread every time you open up the front door and get the furnace.
Yep.
So, Goldie, who do we have between the pipes today?
We have Chris from the Pigeonhole Podcast.
Welcome back, Chris.
Hey, it's good to be back, boys. It was fun to be on your first episode, and I'm excited to see what this one has to do.
Well, first and foremost, we are 1 day away from the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yes. When we're recording this. Yes.
Yeah, Goldie is still a little bit in mourning. My prediction came through for the Florida Panthers to come through. And here's one thing I could tell you, hockey fans, is that I'm a Habs fan. My second team was the Arizona Coyotes. We'll have a whole podcast on that another time.
Yeah.
But watching the playoffs without a dog in the fight is so much more stress-free. Like, I'm watching these games and enjoying them, and I'm not feeling the stress. So back when the Habs made their cup run, every game was stressful. Every second was stressful. And I have to keep that in mind for, Rangers fans and Dallas fans that were on the cusp. They were there. Two really good, interesting series. But first, we'll throw it on out to Chris. Who do you have taking the cup and in how many games?
Well, I'm going to say as a Buffalo Sabres fan, I haven't felt that stress in 13 years. So.
Chris, that's why you look so young, buddy. And that's why I look like I'm aged like to 90.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a young man the last time the Sabres did anything worthwhile. And in fact, the last time they won I think a series was 06, 07. I think that's the last time we won a playoff series. So
yeah, I think I was 4.
Yeah. Thanks, Heath. So yeah, I think, but yeah, I don't have a dog in a fight, but I've always been I've always closet teams, and one of those closet teams is the Florida Panthers. I have a lot of their collectible stuff here. In fact, on my back wall behind me, you're gonna have to excuse my voice. I've been sick for about a week. I have their original. I have the original 94, 95. What year did they come in the league? 94, 95, yeah?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think they were 93, 94. I'm pretty sure.
Whatever it is, you have their inaugural thing.
I have the entire team, the entire team's picture signed, inaugural. It's from the Florida Panthers. I won it in an auction. But the every player from the inaugural team signed photo of one of their original games against Tampa Bay in their very tiny arena.
It's 94 because it's 30 years. They're having their 30-year anniversary right now. I know that because at their center ice. Yep.
There it is.
Yep.
So I have that, and then I also have their 95-96 cup run where they say Panthers skin Bruins, and I have the whole team that signed that one. So I'm rooting for them. I also think between them and Edmonton, they'll win it. Originally, I was going to root for Edmonton, but then I remembered that Kyle Okposo is playing with Florida. So would really like to see him win a cup. I think he deserves one.
And
I live in Canada right now. I don't know how I feel about Edmonton winning a cup right now, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Goldie, who do you got?
Yeah, being a Rangers fan, I kind of hate this series, being that the Oilers have kind of screwed over Jack Campbell and not played him at all. Being a Jack Campbell fan, I kind of hate both teams right now. But to be frank,
dude, I'm gonna have some crying music edited into this podcast.
To be frankly honest with you, who I think's gonna win it is Florida in 5. Who I want to win it is neither, if that's an option. But honestly, I wouldn't be upset if the Oilers somehow pulled off a win and Stuart Skinner all of a sudden turned into Connor Hellebuck or one of the key goaltenders in the NHL right now, like Igor Shesterkin. If he were to be able to pull off some 4 or 5 games like that, I think they may be actually winning this series. But I think it's going to happen in 6 either way. That's just kind of my opinion. Not really sure who's going to win it, to be frankly honest with you. I really think that it is going to be the Panthers, though. Me and Steve have talked about this in long conversations where the Rangers and Panthers, that was for the Stanley Cup, and I think that's how a lot of people feel. I'm not going to say Edmonton's going to be a pushover. I think they may get a game or two, but it's going to be Florida in 6.
Yeah, and so, my fellow Canadians are going to hate me, but last year when I picked the Panthers to make it to the Cup Finals, everybody thought I was nuts, and it was a much easier way to pick it this year. They're just, in my opinion, a juggernaut of a team. And don't get me wrong, McDavid and Draisaitl can do amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
And that goal from McDavid last game was just McJesus again. Like, he's just unbelievable. But I just think the Florida Panthers are a powerhouse team coming into this. So I'm picking them in 5. And this is one where, hey, guys, if I'm wrong and Edmonton wins the Cup, hey, I'm good. Mm-hmm. Canada gets its first Stanley Cup since 1993. So, but moving on now, boys, let's talk some top 5 lists to get things going right now. And we'll start with our guest. So, our very first list is the top 5 goalies of all time that you would like to interview, Chris. So who do you have on your list?
Okay, so the top 5 goalies I'd want. Oh, you said goalies I want to interview.
Yes.
Oh. Well, I have 4 out of those 5 then here. I'll just swap out a name real quick. But let's go here. So I would say at number 5, I'd be looking at someone like Shannon Zebedos. Great Canadian goalie there. She played I think she played down with Columbus, down in the SPHL for a while with the Cottonmouth. And I think she'd be an awesome interview. Then at number 4, Devin Levi, because why not? I know that one would be, I would say that, but I wouldn't want to be on an interview with Steve, because I think the second Steve and Devin start talking about Star Wars, I'll just tap out.
Devin, I cannot wait to talk Star Wars hockey with you. Can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched the series, but in terms of sci-fi, I'd say it's one of the better series out there. But I'm just not much of a sci-fi guy. But at number 3 then would be Jacob Fowler. The Canadians prospect out there, the American goalie.
Yep.
We featured a bunch of his clips early on as a Pigeonhole Hockey podcast. So got to be a fan of his game. At number 2 would be Ilya Bryzgalov, because I don't think there could be a more interesting interview you could have. I mean, I think he's proven to be one of the more interesting characters in hockey, and I think hockey seriously lacks character. It does. Some of these guys are so boring. Again, Crosby and McDavid and everything, they're just token hockey players. Bedard, it's like they're raised in a factory in Canada, clearly. But they're raised in a factory, and I want to see some character, and guys like Brizzy have that. So, and then speaking of character in Canada, Marc-Andre Fleury has all the character in the world. Again, born in a Canadian factory, because you guys create nothing but hockey players. And he's just an overall, I mean, he's got to be the most likable guy in the NHL.
Yep.
Which makes Vegas the crappiest team in the NHL. Because, wow, to give him up for what? I mean,
yep.
I'm just not a fan of what Vegas did, but I got a Vegas Fleury jersey.
Up, right? And how?
I didn't.
Well, how they gave him
up.
Up. Yeah, it's how they gave him up, and so and that just that shows the character of an organization I tell players to stay away from, except if you're going to be paid $11.5 million, just go for it. Just at that point, don't listen to me. Go get your payday. But Marc-Andre Fleury would be, like, I guess Steve is the GOAT for getting on this pod, and I can see why there, because I think Flower Power would just be the ultimate interview.
Yep.
So, but I guess you guys would listen to that, so I won't ask the question of who's next.
Goldie.
I'm used to being a host, boys. I'm used to being a host.
Yeah. You're gonna have to learn how to be a guest.
Put the ball cap on. You're riding the pine today. Back up.
Yep.
All right, Goldie, who do you got?
Yeah, at 5, I have Tuukka Rask. I just think it would be such an interesting interview. At At 4, I have Martin Brodeur. I think that would be a legendary interview. Obviously, a legend of the game, multi-Stanley Cup champion. Just picking his brain about goaltending and stuff like that would be amazing. I have Devin Levi next on that list. I'm gonna leave him off it because it's already been said. Though I knowing me, I put extras here just because I knew that we were probably gonna put a lot of the same guys. So I'm gonna go Igor Shesterkin. I think that would be a great interview. I'm going to put 3 Rangers in a row here.
But according to that one interview, he doesn't speak English.
Yeah, he doesn't speak English. But the number 2, I have Henrik Lundqvist. I think that would be an amazing interview. With what his story he went through, and not to mention the swagger he just has and had when he played. It was a tremendous thing to watch. And then Jonathan Quick is my number 1. If you're, being that this is a new podcast, I'll make a little bit of a, Jonathan Quick is the reason that I really love goaltending and that I wanted to be a goaltender. So getting Jonathan Quick on a podcast, that's my dream guy. I would love to have that on, have him on for an episode, and, pick his brain about his compete level and all the things that, we've all watched him do as not only a King, as a Knight, and also a Ranger now. So it's definitely something that if we can get that hooked up, and a guy, hook it up, guys.
All right. Well, now we're going to roll with my list. Devin, I left you off because I knew the other 2 hosts would definitely bring your name up, and I am looking forward to speaking with you. So Seabass, hook brothers up, buddy. Yep. So coming in at number 5 is Strombone, the legend himself, Roberto Luongo. The guy is so funny, and has so much hockey experience. And hey, his team is in the Cup Finals, again. So many different angles to talk with him, but oh my gosh, he's got to be hilarious to talk with. So Roberto Luongo came in at 5 for me. Number 4, Kim St. Pierre. She's got some amazing stats from when she played. Was huge for Team Canada. So Kim, I would love to get you on an interview here and talk hockey with you. 3 was a tough one because he could have went anywhere, but he was one of the biggest reasons for me to play the game and then to, keep in school and remain an intelligent, as relatively intelligent as I am, hockey player, Ken Dryden.
Yeah.
Read his books, the game was a massive one for me. That's where I really learned to swear in French Canadian for the first time. But well-written books about the game in the locker room and the experience of it. He's written multiple other books since. So definitely Ken Dryden would be huge. Number 2 has got a special place in my heart in hockey for the rest of my life, because after meeting him and seeing him interact with my daughters and what he meant to the organization, Carey Price.
Mm-hmm.
Still feeling his absence on the Habs. You cannot replace a Carey Price. I am hoping for the miracle of miracles that all of a sudden his knee becomes, great. And we totally Vegas Golden Knights / Tampa Bay Lightning the playoffs next year, where Carey Price comes back miraculously healed and over the cap to go win a cup for the Canadians. But number 1, Marc-Andre Fleury. Flower, we need you on this podcast. Again, you are the most famous post hugger out there. You love your posts. And again, I got, an opportunity to briefly meet him at one point. He just instantly has charisma, and his smile can light everything up. So Flower, want you on this podcast. Now, shifting gears, Goldie.
Yes.
Who are your top 5 favorite goalies of all time?
Top 5 favorite goalies. I'm going to continue with a trend here. All of these people that I put on these lists, I would love to interview. Let's just put that out there right first and foremost. UC Saros is up there for sure. Being a shorter goalie myself, I absolutely love his game. I kept this list kind of to new guys in the league, in my viewpoint of like what I've been watching recently. Then the next guy on my list is Thatcher Demko. Me and Steve have talked a lot about Thatcher Demko's game, and honestly, I think that the Canucks are in the finals if he was healthy for the playoffs. So he's just such a good goaltender. A guy that I mentioned earlier in this podcast is Jack Campbell. I absolutely loved him since he went to LA, and, with his story of really losing confidence, gaining confidence back. And I feel like maybe lost his confidence again due to the Oilers not knowing how to treat their goaltenders. We'll get into that on a later episode. And then Carey Price, that's another guy that I absolutely love. And I knew he'd be said multiple times on this podcast, but I would absolutely love to interview him. I will be the first one to say that I grew up, being a Jonathan Quick fan, and there was always that Quick versus Price, and I was always like, Quick is better. But when they went to the finals a few years ago, watching him through that run, it just gave me a whole new respect for him. He's just a terrific goaltender. And then Jeremy Swayman. That's just another guy that I really like. I think he's a charismatic guy that really he obviously is a terrific goaltender. We had some of the best stats in the playoffs this season. The Bruins just couldn't get it done for him, and I say that very directly at the Bruins. You got to treat your goaltenders better, guys. Score some goals for them. And then obviously I have Quick on this list, but I'm not going to say him again because that would be overkill at this point. So I'm gonna leave him off the list and say him anyways. But yeah, what about?
I'm going to leave him on, but
yeah, I'm gonna leave him on, but take him off and leave him on anyway. So Chris, who's your top 5 favorite goalies?
My top 5 favorite goalies. Well, there might be a little bit of overlap with the goalies I want to interview, but it depends how you want to handle that. So in terms of top 5 goalies all time, for me, it starts at number 5, Thomas Vokoun. He was outstanding. Like I said, most of the goalies on this, well, I'd say most of the goalies on all my lists, or all the players and goalies on my list are at least older than me or near my age, maybe with 1 or 2 exceptions. So I'm from a different time frame. And guys like Thomas Vokoun, he was just epic. I have a bunch of his gear from his times, at least when he was with Washington. And just awesome goalie if you ever get a chance to go back and watch his games. And number 4, rest in peace, Matisse Kevliniks. And just because, honestly, I mean, he's a hero the way he went out and is giving, protecting that Merzlikins, wife and daughter, or wife and son. I know wife and baby. The baby she was 8 months pregnant at that time, so can't not have him as one of my favorite all-time 5 goalies because I think should if you still be able to be playing, if he was still alive, there would be a lot more coming out of his career because he was an up and comer. So He's my number 4. And number 3, Ilya Bryzgalov, because I love Brizzy's game. I've always loved Brizzy's game. He's not, again, only a character, but he made some wild, fun saves during his time. He's always great to watch. And number 2, Steve, I know from when we started this podcast, my number 1 and number 2 have changed a little bit. But at number 2, it's going to be Martin Brodeur. Martin Brodeur's game, he's the reason as Heath was a Jonathan Quick fan. Martin Brodeur was really one of those guys that I wanted to emulate my game after when I started playing net. He was one of those guys, he was the young kid on Jersey, and he was making a name for himself. And I tracked his entire career as a Buffalo-born kid that was saying something because we had Hasek. And I was like, Brodeur was the goalie that I was tracking. But over the years, number 1 has easily come through as Marc-Andre Fleury because I think he's, again, one of the better goalies of all time. It really sucks that he played in Pittsburgh, but, can't keep that against him. He was an all-star from the beginning, and he's kind of just kept that go fun, lucky attitude his entire career. And all the little antics he does, outside of maybe the antics that sometimes the teams don't want him to do, like leaving the net, is something that just makes people like him, when he leaves the game here eventually, a really sad day for hockey fans.
Yeah, no, definitely. Steve, let's shoot it on over to you. Top 5 goalies in your eyes.
All right. So I grew up in the 80s. So this guy was one of the phenom of the 80s, Grant Fuhr, the legend of the big glove save. Like, Grant Fuhr's glove saves were just out of this world.
Yeah.
And we're talking, he was playing on a high octane offense, 0 defense. Because, sorry, Paul Coffey, great offensive defenseman, not so great on the defensive side of things. So Fuhr did end up having to let a lot in, but they were scoring a ton, and he made some outrageous saves.
I have met him, and he's super nice too.
Oh, I've met him too, but like just to have the full interview, right? Like I talked with him a little bit. He showed me his cup ring, let me put it on, but to sit down and talk long hockey with him would be a treat. Yes. Coming in at number 4, the badass of the crease, the Gretzky basher himself, Billy Smith. If goaltenders could still play like Billy did and smashing the hell out of guys' ankles and stuff, people would never go into a crease. So again, he was the, made massive saves, for the Islanders when they made their dynasty of cup runs, right? But
now I know why we're friends, Steve. Now I
know. Well, Chris, you're going to like the next one. The Dominator himself is coming in at 3 because the one goaltender, because I got so sick of goaltender coaches saying, you've got to stand up more, stand up goaltending style. Anything to stop a puck, Dominic Hasek. Anything to stop a puck. They said, what was his style? Stopping the puck by any means necessary. And he revolutionized the position in his own way. They already had Patrick Waugh coming in there and doing that, right? With the butterfly style. And again, Patrick Waugh's huge glove save, which we'll play a clip of at some point here, made me his biggest fan as a kid, But Hasek coming in at 3, number 2, Patrick Waugh. Just told you all the reasons why. He got my Habs 2 Stanley Cups that I got to watch in my lifetime. So Sir Patrick is there. And then, of course, number 1, tugging at my heartstrings for all time is Carey Price yet again. Huge bias there. But like I said, I'll go into the story about him later. So now we're talking the top 5 players of all time. And it's just your opinion, not the rated the best. But I will lead this one off, boys, and I'm coming in at number 5 with Pavel Datsyuk. That guy was just so much fun to watch. This was back in, I'm in Coyotes territory, former Coyotes territory. No bitterness there whatsoever, but I got to watch him play a lot because he was in the Western Conference. And every time he was on the ice, he was a threat. I only saw one game where somebody actively body checked him and knocked him down. Difficult to knock off the puck, insanely talented with his hands. Coming in at number 4 for me is Brendan B. Gallagher. Love that guy. Every time I got a chance to meet the Habs when they were in town, Gallagher was awesome. And just most recently, when they were in town for the last time I'm going to see him in Phoenix for quite some time, or the Phoenix area, he gave my daughter the little glass bump, and she wasn't prepared for it because she didn't play hockey, but I was like, oh, sweet, you're supposed to bump it back. But always a class act and the hardest worker on the ice and biggest warrior ever. So B. Gally, love you, brother. Number 3, Captain Canada, Marie-Philippe Poulin. Clutch for Canada so many times.
The American killer.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So massive and, led Montreal for their, very first inaugural season in the PWHL, did a great job. So she's definitely there. Can anybody guess who's number 2 for me? Gary Price.
Yeah. What? I saw that one coming from a pretty long way away. I can tell you that.
He's the one recurring theme for me, right? So don't need to go back into that one yet again. But then number 1, Shane Doan, the biggest class act in hockey.
Yep.
Great captain.
Great
guy, solid all around hockey player. You want to go back and talk to him about a class on the ice. He could have wiped out Osgood in game 1 when the Coyotes were dominating the Red Wings in that series, decided to jump over Osgood, go crashing shoulder first into the boards, and then was injured for the rest of the series. And it crippled the Coyotes. Because if you saw the passion in the eyes of Donor when he scored that first goal, Red Wings wouldn't have stopped him that year. Like they were on fire. And I actually got a chance to talk to Doan a lot. Just an awesome, awesome guy. And he still does not regret to this day jumping over top of Osgood because he said it was the right thing to do. So, all right, we're going to throw this one on over to you, Chris, your top 5 players of all time.
With the action heating up on the ice, we're close to crowning a Stanley Cup champion for the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. What's hotter than the action on the ice? The DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New to DraftKings? Listen up. New customers can get no sweat bet up to $1,500. Just deposit at least $5 and you'll get a bonus bet back equal to your first bet if it doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get a no sweat bet up to $1,500 if your first bet doesn't hit. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in West Virginia visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. 1 no sweat bet per new customer. Issued as 1 bonus bet based on amount of initial losing bet. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/ice for eligibility. Wagering and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsibly gambling resources. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved.
Well, so because I didn't want to destroy this list and list the same 5 players I just listed as goalies, because that's what they would be, I just decided to go 5 non-goalies because I'd have to go into the double digits before I actually found somebody that was not a goalie when I went through my list. So if you're good with that, these are all non-goalies. So you have to try to recognize some of their names. At number 5, Jarome Iginla. Like, you want to talk about a captain's captain, a hockey player's hockey player, that's Jarome Iginla. I don't like the Flames. I can't stand the Flames. But you want to talk about a leader for a team and organization. He's willing to drop the gloves to defend his teammates, but he can also make everything happen on the ice. That was Jarome Iginla. Mm-hmm. Number 4, you're talking about Captain Clutch. That's Hillary Knight. Hillary Knight is badass. She's been leading the U.S. team for, I would say God knows how long, but I would probably have someone reach out with me a few weeks and, or a few minutes and tell me, oh, it's been this long, but I know that. But she's been on the U.S. team and U.S. representative for such a long time. And she was a big part of that PWHPA push. And I really wish I would have been able to see her in an NWHL jersey, but now she's in a PWHL jersey. So I couldn't be any happier about that. I just wish it wasn't Boston. God, that hurts me, Hillary. Find another team, please. I just can't do a Boston jersey. It's against everything in my spirit. Any other team, and I'll be happy. And number 3, it's going to be Alexander Mogilny. The story of him just coming over is something you got to watch. If you're not familiar with the story of him coming over to the NHL, it is insane and awesome. And to get to see him as a kid growing up in Buffalo was incredible. Weirdly enough, I don't have his Buffalo Sabres jersey. I have his Vancouver Canucks jersey. But nonetheless, still pretty cool. And number 2, it's going to be Dave Anderchuk. Again, not a long-time Buffalo Sabre there, but he won his Stanley Cup with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Again, just one of those captains, one of those guys that's going to do what it takes to make sure his team wins and to, lead his players and such. And so at number 1, Vincent Lecavalier. I mean, I don't think Steve, I'll have to explain to you who he is. But I mean,
he's
when
with
it comes
Montreal Canadiens organization. So
yeah.
A little bit aware of that, yeah. But Vincent Lecavalier, I just think that if I wanted one person to represent a captaincy on a team, if I was picking all time, it'd be Vincent Lecavalier. 100%. I just think that he was the all-around, perfect player for what you envision when you look at what a hockey player can be and what a leader on a team should be. That was Vincent Lecavalier. So I got his Bolts jersey. A lot of people think the Bolts jersey is ugly. I kind of like it. And I got it at the Olympics in 2010, so I really don't care what people think.
And sorry to interrupt you here, Chris, but Chris and I disagree on a lot of jerseys. Lots. He's going to love the new Utah jersey because it's got baby blue in it. So there you go, Chris. Utah actually listened to Chris and got his opinions on what color they should roll with the jersey. So there you go, bud.
Yep.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, no, you're gonna love Utah HC right across the chest, aren't you? That's gonna be great.
They can make it somewhat. I've seen some concepts of the jersey so far. They could actually make it fairly cool for this one season, and I get it honestly as a marketing standpoint, and based off of where they're at in the season and such. I can understand where they're going with it, but I'm like, it's kind of like the PWHL jerseys right now. These are one-off. You're not going to get them again. So to get these original PWHL jerseys is important because they're not going to make those again. And in fact, they're going to go back to what the NWHL was doing, which is putting the name below the numbers. So they're going to be collector's items very quickly because they're not going to make them again. And you know what? The Utah Hockey Club's going to make double the money because people are going to get the original jerseys and then they're going to get the Mammoth jerseys. Did you hear me, Utah? The Mammoth.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on the Mammoth, although I like the Outlaw. I just preferred if they had used.
I like Mammoth or Yeti.
Yeah, it's got to be Mammoth or Yeti with those color schemes. It can't
you see a jersey I'm wearing right now? If it didn't have this classic patch, it would have a Bigfoot patch. So very unoriginal. Boo on Yeti.
That's why I like the Mammoth.
I'm good with Mammoth.
Yeah,
but that would be all right.
I don't like the Blizzard is terrible. Please don't do that. And the Venom is like 90s-ish. I don't know.
Outlaws would have been cool though.
Yeah.
No.
It would have been cool if you had a different color scheme. Would have been cool if you had a different color scheme, but that doesn't work with the baby blues. But going into my top 5, I have a top 8. I could not narrow this down to 5.
Goldie can't count. So by the way, Goldie's not going to become an accountant in his days.
No. Well, I mean, there were crossovers, but I'm gonna say to just start her off, Drew Doughty. I absolutely love Drew Doughty's work ethic. You're gonna see a trend here. There's a couple Kings on here, a couple Rangers on here. Tyler Toffoli is another guy that me and Steve we've talked long about. I've had the pleasure of meeting him a couple times. He's an absolutely great human being. From the interactions that I've had with him. Hopefully a future New York Ranger, but we'll get into that in a later episode. Another guy that's one of the most underrated guys in the entire NHL, Anze Kopitar. I think he's probably one of the most. I think he's the best center to play for the Kings, and honestly, I think he's top 5 all time. But I don't think he'll get that credit.
Hey Goldie, he's right up there though with the consideration for the most underrated with Barkov because both of those guys are just unreal.
They're both unreal, and you know I think Barkov is the Eastern Conference's version of Anze Kopitar. If those two guys were on the same team, I think they wouldn't lose a cup once. But another guy that I love his speed, I love his work ethic is Adrian Kempe. Young guy in the league. Obviously for the Kings. Another guy that I couldn't leave off this list is Dustin Brown. His leadership through all the playoff runs that the Kings had was just impeccable. I would love to pick his brain about, what went through some of those decisions, the hit on the Sedin. I mean, the hit on, I don't remember the guy's name across the middle against the Coyotes.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, I know you would remember.
I was at that game. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember Doan's reaction the very first game the next season.
Yep. Yeah. Clean hit. Clean hit. But and then a guy that and then a guy that.
Hey, Goldie, the NHLPA just called. They want you to jump on the player safety committee now.
Yeah, no, I will.
As consistent as they are, dude.
I'll take that job. I'll take that job right now. And then a guy that absolutely Steve hates is Chris Kreider. I love that guy. I love his work ethic. I hate what he did to Carey Price, but shit's the shit.
Hey,
it's
Chris,
what happens.
how many other goalies did he collide with?
And then
honestly, I don't know if you can call him a post hugger right now. You might have to end this podcast at 2. I just heard Chris Kreider.
Yeah.
Did I hear that right?
Yes, you did. You did hear that correct.
And then my last two is two of the best captains of Rangers history, Jacob Trouba and Marc Messier. I would recommend everyone read Marc Messier's book, No One Wins Alone. It's actually sitting right next to me right now. I'm reading it right now. So I'd recommend everyone read that. It's a great read, especially if you're a hockey fan of, either the Oilers or the Rangers, or if you're just a hockey fan in general, definitely go pick up a copy of that book. It definitely teaches a lot of life lessons, and, it kind of goes through his life. So I would definitely recommend picking up that book and taking a little gander down reading road.
All right. So since you
elbows
can't
down,
count
elbows
Goldie,
down.
yeah. Since you can't count Goldie, we might as well let you go on your list of 25 of the top 5 women's players of all time.
Yeah.
Only 5 this time, Heath. 5.
I had 6. I had 6 just in case one of you guys put one of them. I was going to do 5 anyways. Number 1 is Taylor Heisey. That is someone that I would love to have on this podcast. Just her ability on and off the ice, her leadership qualities, obviously, playing for Minnesota and then being drafted to Minnesota. That'd be a great story to tell. Hillary Knight, U.S., legend. Absolutely would love to have her on the pod. And then I have 2 goalies, both U.S. goalies, Maddie Rooney and Nicole Hensley. Absolutely legendary in their own rights, both from PWHL Boston. I absolutely would love to pick both their brains about, their thought process and, pick their brains about obviously winning the inaugural season. I think that would be a great podcast. And also I, watch a lot of their games, and I really like watching them. Another one is Sarah Nurse. I think she's just an ambassador for the game. I absolutely love watching, her do interviews and stuff like that. It's just what she says is always, it's 99% on point. Usually there's, with anyone saying anything, it can be 1% off, especially because we're all hockey players, right? But I mean, I think that those women are just incredible. The inaugural season with all of them was so successful. And we will be covering a lot of the PWHL on here, but no, I definitely would love to interview any one of them, pick one, put them on the pod, and let's do it. But yeah, let's go to Chris here. Who's in your top 5?
Well, my top 5, it starts with Brianna McLaughlin, or I think it's Brie Laughlin Brittle, or something, whatever her nickname was, or something. Or maybe not her nickname, maybe it's extended name. I'm not really sure, but she was a Buffalo Butte for a couple seasons. She was representing Team USA for a while. But it was really awesome to be able to see her play for the Buttes while they were an existing team in the NWHL. And, I got the jersey and loved showing the support for the Buttes while they were around, and just really liked her game. At number 4, the infamous Mana Rayom. What can you say? I mean, growing up and watching her be able to jump in net for Tampa, you really thought it would get there quicker. I don't know how else to say it as a kid. You really thought, okay, well, women will be playing in this league. Sure enough, she's already here, so it's going to become more frequent. It never did. Yeah. But you thought that would be a big moment right there. And I got a bunch of her collectible stuff here, including the thing on my back wall, a bunch of her signed stuff. And she was really the first woman of hockey, if you want to call her that, when it comes to, kind of breaking that glass ceiling and getting and showing that women could compete in the professional league. So love her. At number 3, Hillary Knight. I don't know. I think we're all going to keep saying the same name right here, but it's Hillary Knight. Everything I already said before. At number 2, Nicole Hensley. Got her jersey as well. And again, all I see now is that, I'm glad that they're PWHL champs, but all I see now is that overtime, whatever it was, it was like, that feeling of you're playing a great game and then everything falls apart. But love Nicole Hensley. She's been such a great representative for Team USA. And then I love her and I hate her. I've mentioned her on this podcast before. Shanna Ceballos. As an American, I cringe when I'd see her in net. But you couldn't deny that she was basically the best, in my opinion, goalie in the world in her premium years. I don't think you were going to find a better goalie. And so I know they don't all have to be goalies. Hillary isn't. But I told you give me a chance, they're going to mostly be goalies. Heath was able to do his 8 players right there. And like I said, I would have had to drop down to, I think, player 13 to not have my first one be a goalie. But yeah, Shannon, I think, again, was just one of those players that proved that women can play in the pros.
Yep.
All right. I will wrap this one up. So my top 5 women's players of all time. All right. So I can count like Goldie does, but they're twins. So they get to occupy a spot. Monique and Jocelyn Lamoureux. That shootout for Team USA to claim gold.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. My first thing is they would have been my first 2 picks to go on the ice to ice that game because they were unbelievable. Like the game-winning goal was in the shootout was unbelievable. Canadians are still going to hate me right now because coming in number 4 is Hillary Knight. Just like I got to watch her last year when they were doing that series, going around. Playing the friendlies, right? I was in Tempe at Mullet watching them play, and Hillary's a force on that ice. So Marie-Philippe is, she's got those suave moves and stuff, but Hillary is just such a power forward. And I watched her power 2 pucks into the net. It was amazing to watch. Number 3, Kim St. Pierre. I'm gonna repeat that one again. Of course, number 2, Marie-Philippe, Captain Canada. But I have a tie for number 1, and it's the 2 that really broke through women, both those glass ceilings is Manon Rhéaume and Hayley Wickenheiser, because Wickenheiser went across to Europe and cracked into those lineups, played pro hockey, right? So, and then went on, Hayley's now part of the Toronto Maple Leafs organization too. So those are my top 5 women of all time. And again, yes, everybody we've mentioned in this podcast, we want to interview, especially Marc-Andre Fleury.
And Jonathan Quick.
Yeah. Goldie will always throw a quickie out there, but Marc-Andre, I'm coming for you, buddy. We got to have you on here. It's going to be a recurring theme. And I hate to say it, even after you're on, I'll be like, yeah, I want to have Marc-Andre back. So great way to wrap up this episode, boys, is I cannot wait to watch that Cup Finals because I want to see McDavid, Draisaitl, and what they can bring against that really deep Florida Panthers team.
Yeah, can they get the puck out of the zone is going to be key for them, I think. I think the Rangers are, even in the regular season, the Rangers looked like a completely different team than the team that was on the ice. Obviously, there were injuries and stuff like that, but that's going to happen in the playoffs, right? And anyone who's crucifying Jacob Trouba for playing through a broken ankle, don't do it. That is leadership 101. You play through injuries. That's what happens in playoffs. Quick played through a broken wrist and won the Cup against the Rangers. Sorry, he did. But I mean, these players are not playing healthy at this point in the year. An 82-game season plus 16 minimum games in the playoffs. You have to win 16 to win the Cup. These guys are not going to play healthy. Anyone who says that Jacob Trouba is not a good defenseman can go up a tree. But we're trying to keep this PG today. But no, his leadership is unmatched. But no, I'm really looking forward to watching the Stanley Cup final, seeing what McDavid and Draisaitl can do, see if they can even break the puck out of the zone against this juggernaut team of the Florida Panthers. And who knows, maybe Stuart Skinner becomes, 2012 Jonathan Quick. Who the fuck knows? And then I dropped one there, but
totally got to go up the tree, and then you drop the F-bomb right at the end. Atta boy, Goldie. So hey, there's the pucks to the head, boys. This is what happens.
Yeah, that's what happens. But no,
I
think the 2 of you dropped the record number of F-bombs on my podcast the last episode you were on. So I think that was a record number. It's the first time I put down an advisory on it.
Advisory. Steve is about to tee the F off.
Yes. Yeah, but no. No, this is a great place to wrap it. Thanks for listening to our second episode. This will probably drop sometime next week. We're recording this obviously the day before the Stanley Cup Finals begin. So thank you for tuning in. This is Heath signing off.
And this is Steve. Hockey fans, have a great one. And thank you so much, Chris, for joining us yet again. Remember to follow us on X at PostHuggersPod, on Instagram at PostHuggersPodcast, and on what's the last one over there?
That is Threads.
At PostHuggersPodcast. So please tune in and shoot us any questions you want. Happy to answer them, and we're happy at any time to talk anything hockey.
Yeah, comment down below who you think's going to win the Stanley Cup.